This third workout is a basic routine you can use if you've got access to a gym. First thing we're going to do is a goblet squat. So hold it as though you're holding a goblet. That's where the name comes from. So feet are about hip width apart. I've got my palms of my hands under it. Ideally contact with my chest. You're going to sit back through the heels and drive up. The nice thing about a goblet squat is if you're doing it badly, you're going to feel yourself fall forward, and you notice the bottom part of the dumbbell is going to fall away from your torso. So the more you can stay upright, it'll reward you by making the exercise feel easier. Next we've got dumbbell bench press. Key things are feet set nicely, good posture, and really it's all in the setup. So here, in one smooth motion, you're going to kick back, feet are planted, squeeze the glutes, chest up, shoulders back and down, and you're pressing up. You don't have to press in, some people like to, but what you do have to do is make sure the elbows aren't flared out. So make sure they're tucked in a little bit, and you're going to press up like that. Really important that you have them balanced in your hands. So you're not arm wrestling them, just having them balanced in the hands and pressing up. Key things to watch out for are being too narrow with it, so the weight's going to come in and smack you in the face, which is not good, or being too wide, you're going to get overstretched, or overcooking it going too far back. So really controlled movement, slow and deliberate. When you've finished, bring the knees up, and the weights will actually help pick you up. Next up, we've got a dumbbell RDL. So with this one, start with a relatively light weight and feet nice and even. Sit back into the glutes and hips a little bit, and then you're just going to hinge over until you feel a stretch in the hamstrings. So it's not an exercise where we're actually bending the back's staying straight, but we're hinging at the hips. And don't chase too much stretch when you're first starting it, because it can create a fair bit of soreness if you're not used to it. So controlled range, controlled speed, driving through with your glutes and hamstrings. Next we've got seated row. We're using a height adjustable cable, but you can use a standard row as well. What matters is having a horizontal cable. So nice and upright, and it's all about squeezing the shoulder blades together as you go. So a good way to do it is initiate with the shoulder blades, drive, and then squeeze in. Common mistakes you'll see is people that are heaving the weight, people that are sort of turning into a bit of a bicep curl. But what we want is nice and upright, controlled, and away you go. And the other thing you'll often see is as people get fatigued, they'll start to lean back, so it becomes a bit sort of hunchy. So just nice and upright, smooth, controlled, and really focus on squeezing those shoulder blades. If you don't have access to a cable row, a dumbbell row is a good alternative option. So pick a reasonably light weight, don't go too heavy with it, just get a feel for the movement. Hand on the bench, or it can be on the side, whatever you're comfortable with. Knee under your body. And then all you're doing is relaxing the shoulder blade a little bit, driving up through. Really focus again on making that shoulder blade do the work. Very, very important with this exercise that you do it in a slow, controlled fashion, because if you go too fast, you're going to rotate through, and that's not a good idea. So control, own the movement all the way through from start to finish. Next up, we've got inverted row. This is a more advanced movement, but really, really good for your overall strength. What you're going to do is put your feet up on a bench, body nice and straight, driving up, again with the shoulder blades doing the work. Most common mistakes you're going to see are people that are either sagging too much the whole way through, or very, very common where they're leading with the head, trying to get to the finish line. So head back, chest up, hips up, and then squeeze and drive. Regressions from that, if that's too hard, you can do it standing. because there's less gravity being dialed into the equation. And then kind of a middle ground is going to be a bent leg variation. So you're here, hips are up, and you've just taken a bit of your body weight out of the equation. And now we're on to Swiss ball ham curl. So feet on the ball, roughly hip width apart. Elevate the hips, really try and lock in everything so you're a nice straight plank, support it here. And then you're going to drag the feet back, keeping controlled all the way through the motion. We don't want to hyperextend and lock out the knees at the end of it. We just want them to be straight but not overextended. Next up, we've got a straight arm plank. So hands a little wider than shoulder width apart, tuck the butt under, lock in the core, so belly button in, and you're just going to hold that position. If that's a little bit too easy, you can also progress to a shoulder tap. So you're going to lock in, tap, just swapping, and just making that core work a little harder as you go. Next, we've got stir the pot. This is a great progression from planks if they're getting a bit too easy. The key thing is not pitching the head forward too much, not sagging at the spine, just nice controlled movement and good smooth circles as much as you can. So, forearms on the ball, body out nice and straight. You're going to rotate around and back. And so finally, it is summer, so some people are going to do some bicep curls, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But the main thing is you do them correctly. What we want is good position, just a little bit of softness through the knees, and then as we curl up, control it down. And the big errors that people make all the time is really swinging the body around. Just lock in, and you actually want to maintain pretty continuous tension on the arms as you go. So controlled, no moving around. And really the bicep is the only muscle doing the work rather than the back getting over involved. The last exercise is calf raises. Make sure you've got a good balance point, nice and safe, and all you're going to do is pushing up on the balls of your feet, really focus on that big toe joint and really loading up through there. So we don't want to be loading through the smaller toes, we want to be turning the feet out like that. Load up to that big toe joint, nice and smooth. You can do these off a small step, do it off the ground, but the main thing is where you're loading that weight. Once you're comfortable with 25, double leg, you can then move into a single leg variation. So it's simply here, and you are up and down like that. Same rules apply, really load through that big toe joint, deliberate, controlled, and make those calves work.